to MMB Live Behind the Track, brought to you by the Memphis Music Bank, powered by On Location Memphis. I'm your host, Margaret Buddy MD Deloach. And not only do I also am the Memphis Music Bank Content Clearance Advisor, which I am responsible for making sure that all the paperwork is in order for our publishers, but I get a chance to actually listen to the amazing music that we have in the bank. And so today I am so excited because we have one of our talented music publishers with us today for the Memphis Music Bank Behind the Track. We have Mr. Richard Wilson. You say hello, Richard. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, Margaret. Thanks for having me on your show.
No problem. Thank you for bringing your talent and your time as well. You staying safe
Sure.
out there? Staying safe?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Staying safe on Zoom. You can't get any safer than being safe on Zoom, can you?
Exactly. So now this MMB Live Behind the Track, we're going to listen to your track, Always Be My Fault. And then right after we listen to it, we'll come back with some Q&As.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, let's take a listen.
It'll always be my fault. We'll never meet our minds. It'll always be my fault. I'll always seem unkind. Tear down all your walls. Enough of feeling small. Time to regain ambition. Stand up after your fall. Stand up after you fall, no need to crawl. Ooh. It'll always be my fault, me that commits the crime. It'll always be my fault. In stories you refine, no hope of resolution, no chance of having peace. Time to regain ambition. Stand up, you are released. Stand up after your fall, no need to crawl. Ooh.
Okay, so did you all enjoy that? I know I did. And so we're going to actually go ahead and just get into some Q&As about this song because you have so many different songs in the bank. And, you know, I chose this one because just the times that we're living in and the things that we're seeing and that we're hearing, this song brought a lot of that to the forefront. And so we can just get right into it. So what was your inspiration, Richard, behind this song?
Yeah, well, basically, when you write songs, you give little vignettes of life. That's the beauty of being a songwriter. So this was actually about a relationship between two people where they were just missing. You know what I mean? You know, they were like talking at each other. They weren't, you know, they weren't actually listening to each other. And so when I play it live, I always call it, it's a song like being in the doghouse, you know, like the one person's always in the doghouse. So that was the inspiration, and hence with the lyrics, you know, it'll always be my fault, we'll never meet our minds, it'll always be my fault, I'll always seem unkind. But then you can actually look into the wider kind of socio-economic, well, political situation, if you will, about different factions. you know, in society who are just button heads, and it can be, you know, the fight for racial equality. So it kind of works on a lot of different levels, but that was the inspiration.
The inspiration behind it. Do you, were you going for a particular sound? Because I know you do, you know, you have the blues, the gospel, all together. What, do you have a particular sound that you normally go for when you created this track, or were you just kind of going from the mindset of these two relationships and you just went for it?
I felt this one was more of a gospel, like a spiritual kind of thing, where you're processing, you know, these troubles, these emotions in you. And obviously I'm heavily influenced by gospel music, you know, the staple singers. I mean, the early Aretha Franklin stuff I absolutely love, you know, and I love all the blues stuff, but this has kind of got a rolling 6/8 time signature as well. And, you know, there are some refrains where obviously I swoop up on the melody and stuff, and it's just me. And it felt right that it would be a gospel, spiritual kind of.
Good. What do you normally, you know, when producing and creating, do you normally just kind of do majority of it solo, or did you do this kind of by yourself, or do you normally work with other people, or do you choose, or you just like producing?
Well, I was in bands for years, you know, going back many, many moons. And now I just write on my own. And I just write my own, you know, basically solo. So I put it all together myself. So when I perform it solo, always electric guitar, you know, and vocal. But then what I do on recordings, I draft in musicians that I may need to complete the track. So in this case, this was an album I did called Nothing to Lose, and this track is on it, and I did the whole album with just a drummer.
Wow.
So it's just me and a drummer on this track. And we cut it live. There is no other, it's just two guys playing on it, and I cut the vocal live, I played the guitar live to the drums, and that was it. That's how we did it in the studio. And it was the most purest, non-overproduced way of doing it, like from the heart to the disc, you know.
Yes. Do you, I mean, because being so raw, do you find yourself, I don't want to say second guessing, but how do you really just know that, okay, this song is it, like I'm done producing this one, let me move on to the next? Or do you find yourself, did you have to go back to create this track, or did you kind of do it all in one take?
I gigged this track for like a long time. So
what? Before you recorded it?
Yeah. So the stage kind of hones it in. You know, it's a bit like Michelangelo chipping away at a sculpture. You know, it's like a song. Like, this is my music room. You can see the guitars in the background. So when the song is first written, it can be a bit raw. And I just go out and gig, and I play it and play it and play it. And then when I hit the studio, I'm ready to hit it. I'm old school.
That's awesome, Richard. And you know, not people do it like that, but that's what the pre-recording and that's so ironic that you said that, because that's something that I used to do when like writing and doing poetry and things of that nature, and even songs. It would always be, I need to practice it in front of some people just to see if what hit me, did it hit them the same way? If it didn't, then I need to make some adjustments, you know.
Exactly.
And so it's not about always just writing for yourself and producing for yourself. But like you stated, it's not a lot of people, and I won't call it old school, but that's just something I feel that some people get into the studio and they rush things, and they just like, I just need to perform, but they haven't tested it. And then, you know, sometimes they get upset when it doesn't do well as they thought it was going to do. But that's a great technique that I think a lot of people need to kind of pick up on more.
Yeah, exactly. You just road test it. On the stage and at gigs, and you get the response coming back, and then you strengthen your vocal, you know, and your pitching and your range and everything really gets dialed in. So when you hit the studio, you're just pretty much rehearsed. And it was really the best of like 3 takes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
So how long did you practice it out in front of people, and then how long did it take you? You said 3 takes in the studio to like you and the drummer to cut?
It all depends. I mean, basically, I wrote this a year before I recorded it. Gotcha. So I gigged it loads of times. And then when I hit the studio, like on this album, some of the cuts were done in the first take, some were in the second take, and some were in the third take. So there's no more than like the third take. And if we nailed it on the second take, then we're good. And I can't remember what take this was, but it's like within 3 takes, that was it. And that was the cleanest way to do it, you know.
What software do you normally use? Did you use for this one, or do you normally use? And do you play? I know you play the guitar. Do you play any other instruments as well?
Yeah, I started off on the bass. You know, I was a bass player. You know, so I really just do bass and guitar. But now I just play, you know, exclusively guitar. I don't really. If I need a bass, typically I use a Hammond organ. Okay. So I love organ bass. You know. Okay. So I'm sorry. What was the?
I asked how long did it take for you? I know you had already said you had practiced.
Oh, okay.
But how long did it take? Go ahead.
Yeah, the process. I'm sorry. Yeah, the format. Yeah. Well. Now I try and use analog tape as much as possible, because that really focuses you. There's no editing. There's no nothing. You know. You've got to get it right. But on this album, I used Pro Tools, and I used Pro Tools like an analog recorder, where it's the best it takes. So basically, we just, take one, count it in, and boom, we go. And so there's no editing, but I really use a digital workstation.
No samples or anything. It was just strictly guitar and drum, right?
That's it. That was it. I mean, basically, me cutting it live. I had the condenser mic on me. There was eye contact with the drummer, and that was basically it. We just cut it live.
What was your studio setting in recording always be? My fault. Was it in the? Did you record it live, which would be nice, or did you record it in the studio? What was your?
It was done in the studio. I was actually back in England for a little while, and this track was actually recorded 5 years ago, believe it or not. And so I was back in England, and a friend of mine's got a studio, and it was the big tracking room. So we had all this natural ambience and reverb and all the rest of it, and so the drums, they're on there, and you get spill between the instruments. So that's a really nice, it's just like extra information coming in, and there's more energy in the room. So it was the sound of room, and it was a studio.
That's nice. And I think, have you seen or used any studios here in Tennessee that kind of feel the same? Like, do you just kind of like that sort of a vibe?
I record now.
Gives a good natural sound, a good natural take, especially because especially as a vocalist, as yourself, you don't. Yeah. I'm not trying to hear auto tune on Richard Wilson. I'm not trying, because you have that nice raw already.
Yeah. Well.
Go ahead.
Here I record at Electrophonic recording, which is Scott Bomar's studio. He did all the Hustle and Flow movie stuff. And Don Bryan, who you may know, he did his album there. And John Paul Keith. And it's basically an analog and digital studio. So we track it in Pro Tools, and then we mix it onto analog tape. And it's like stepping into the 1960s. The board is like from the 60s. You've got analog tape machines. You've got old RCA microphones, old Ampex tape machines. It's like my kind of place. So it's a very live, old school feel.
And you feel so much comfortable, so much at home when you're in those types of settings.
I do. I do. I just, I always hate it when you see a whole bunch of plugins and processing, and it's different kind of music. I'm a live guy, but I know if there was something, like Hans Zimmer, obviously doing film music is a whole different thing where you've got virtual strings. And that's a whole trip, and I respect that. I'm just live,
Exactly. And I
I'm
enjoy
alive.
exactly. I enjoy it. And you know what, that's that. But when those live musicians and artists get into the studio, I think it's like you said, 3 takes is all it really should take. Because you have practiced so much in front of people texting and laughing and talking and all this while you're performing. So when you get in the studio, it's more so honing in on making sure that people and we feel what you felt when you wrote it. And it sounds amazing. I enjoyed the song. I love the lyrics.
Right.
Make sure you all go check it out on memphismusicbank.com. Hit the artist tab and make sure you check out Richard Wilson and all his amazing music. Do you have anything that we should be looking out for coming up for you, Richard?
Well, I've actually got 2 more albums that I recorded. And I've actually submitted them to the bank, even though they haven't been released in the wider world with artwork. And so basically I'm always creating. I've got a Wednesday live stream, and if you want to dig deeper, you can link to all my music from my website, which is galaxytracks.com. And Richard Wilson. And
Well, so I'm so thankful, and thank you for your time and joining us here at the Music Bank Live Behind the Track. We definitely enjoyed Always Be My Fault. Again, make sure you all go check it out. Go to his Facebook, check out his Facebook Live. He does amazing music on Wednesday, gets you right in the vibe. Especially since sometimes, church is really not showing, or, some people are not meeting at church. Richard will take you to church with his guitar singing.
Thank you.
So make sure you tune in to the Memphis Music Bank. Richard Wilson, thank you for having your music in our bank and continue to support. So you all make sure you go out there and listen to it, something that you may want to use for your project. But thanks again for being with us. Brought to you by the Memphis Music Bank, powered by On Location Memphis. I'm your host, Buddy MD, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you, Margaret. I appreciate everything you do.
No problem. No problem. Have a great week. I'll see you next time.
Thank you. You got it. Bye-bye.
Bye, Richard.
Bye.